Hi readers, welcome back to my channel, Lila Wanders and Reads. Lee here, and welcome to my weekend books. I read 4 books this week, and got another 3 going on. So, this week was a weird week where Monday was the last day of March, and in my March reading recap, I featured my first read of this week, The English Patient by Michael Ondaatje. With unsettling beauty and intelligence, his Booker Prize-winning novel traces the intersection of 4 damaged lives in an abandoned Italian villa at the end of World War II. The nurse, Hannah, exhausted by death, obsessively tends to her last surviving patient. Caravaggio, the thief, tries to reimagine who he is now that his hands are hopelessly maimed. The Indian sapper Kip, who was actually my favorite character, searches for hidden bombs in a landscape where nothing is safe but himself. And at the center of this labyrinth lies the English patient, nameless and hideously burned, a man who is both a riddle and a provocation to his companions, and whose memories of suffering, rescue, and betrayal illuminate this book like flashes of heat lightning. I had never obviously read this book. This was the 1992 Booker Prize winner, and this is part of my Booker Prize project. I'm trying to read through all the Booker Prize books. It's going to take a minute. I can see why it won the Booker Prize, and I liked it, but I did not really love it. Because it's told in a non-linear fashion, I got lost and wasn't sure sometimes where or when I was, and I haven't, what I was originally going to say, is watch the movie. And I'm not sure that I will. I think that the movie, from what I read, the movie takes a much more linear look at this. I don't know. Maybe one night if I'm bored. But anywho, I appreciate this. I ended up giving it 3 stars. I would probably have enjoyed it more if it were more linear, but part of the storytelling is what made it interesting. Anywho, that's all I have to say about that. I gotta put that over here. Next up was a new release for me. I got it on release date. On pub day. I was not sure it would come in time for me to be able to start it Tuesday, but it did. That was Abby Jimenez's Say You'll Remember Me. This is the final book in my Abby Jimenez journey so far. I've read all her other novels that I'm aware of. I think she has a couple of short stories or novellas, but they are on Kindle or ebooks, and I'm not reading ebooks right now. I loved this. One criticism, it went on like a hair too long, but whatever. Still a great 4-star read for me. There might be no such thing as a perfect guy, but Xavier Rush comes disastrously close. A gorgeous veterinarian giving Greek god vibes, all while cuddling a tiny kitten? Immediately, yes. That is, until Xavier opens his mouth and proves that even sculpted gods can say the absolute wrong thing. Of course, there's nothing Samantha loves more than proving an asshole wrong. Unless, of course, he can admit he made a mistake. But after one incredible and seemingly endless date, possibly the best in living history, Samantha is forced to admit the truth. That her family is in crisis and any kind of relationship would be impossible. Samantha begs Xavier to forget her, to remember their night together as a perfect moment, as crushing as that may be. Only no amount of distance or time is nearly enough to forget that something between them. And the only thing better than one single perfect memory is to make a life, and even a love, worth remembering. I loved this so much. Like I said, maybe a tad too long, but that tad too long gave, like, the chance for a circle to come around. I don't want to spoil it, but in this book, there is something that happens to one of the characters early on in their life, and later on, they get closure on it. And I thought that was the part that made me tear up. I thought I was going to start really crying because it was just a beautiful closure moment. And I loved this. This is a fantastic book. I love Abby Jimenez. I love the way she handles real life trauma. I love that she said, I won't talk, she said some people say that trigger warnings are spoilers. So I won't say that, but I will I will share this part. She says in the note from the author, she talks about the trigger warnings, and then she said, the dog doesn't die. The main character's dog will never die. Now, I did have a moment of panic because I thought another animal would die, and it did not. But that's a go for me. Anywho, highly recommend it if you like Abby Jimenez. I'm kind of concerned now that I won't be able to read regular rom-coms that don't have that kind of trauma in them. But we'll see when we get there. I went twice this week to a bookstore looking for a book that's actually out April 8th. Sometimes my Barnes & Noble gets in books like a weekend early, sometimes even a week early. But no, they do not have this book. So, the first trip, I picked up Heartwood by Amity Gage, and another book that I thoroughly enjoyed. Let's hear what it's about. Finished this in a night, by the way. Very fast-paced, very short chapters, which I love. In the heart of the Maine woods, 42-year-old Valerie Gillis has vanished along the Appalachian Trail 200 miles from her destination. Alone in the wilderness, Valerie pours her thoughts into fractured, poetic letters to her mother as she battles the elements and struggles to keep hope alive. At the center of the investigation into Valerie's disappearance is Beverly, the determined Maine state game warden leading the search on the ground. Meanwhile, Lena, a 76-year-old bird watcher, I don't recall her being a bird watcher. She was more of a forager in my experience with this book. So I don't like that part of this. In a Connecticut retirement community, becomes an unexpected armchair detective. As the story alternates among these compelling and vivid voices, a puzzle emerges, intensifying the frantic search as it appears Valerie's disappearance may not have been accidental. This part right here. Heartwood is not only the story of a lost hiker's odyssey, but also a powerful ode to mothers and daughters and to the solace of nature. And that was really the takeaway for me. Some people don't like, they thought there were red herrings. And I caught on to something pretty early on, but I was okay with it. But at the heart of it, it is really a story about mothers and daughters in each individual, Bev, Lena, and Valerie. So I recommend this book. It was a quick, good read. I think I gave it 4 stars. I don't remember. So, the final book that I got, I picked up last night, Friday night, at Barnes & Noble, and I had originally had no intention of buying The Sirens by Amelia Hart. But they didn't have the book I wanted, and this cover is great, and the edges are great, and I thought, what the hell? I wasn't going to buy it because I didn't love Wayward like other people did. And I have it over here, but I've got books stacked on top of it, so I can't pull it out. But when I picked this up, I thought, you know what? I didn't love Wayward. I liked it. It was 3 stars, but I didn't love it. So let me approach this differently. Let me go in not thinking about the ways I didn't like Wayward, but let me go to this with an open heart and an open mind. And I am so glad I did, because this capped off the reading week in a very positive way. 2019, and I love different timelines. Lucy awakens in the middle of the night with her hands around her ex-lover's throat. Horrified, she flees to her older sister's house on the Australian coast, hoping Jess can explain the vivid dreams that preceded the attack. But she is nowhere to be found. Desperate for answers, Lucy finds and begins to read her sister's adolescent diary. 1999. Jess is a lonely 16-year-old in a rural town in the middle of the continent. Diagnosed with a rare allergy to water, she has always felt different until her young, charming art teacher takes an interest in her drawings, seeing a power and maturity in them, and in her, that no one else has. It's going where you think it's going. 1800. Twin sisters Mary and Eliza are torn from their home in Ireland and forced onto a convict ship bound for Australia. Since their mother's drowning when they were girls, they feared the ocean. But as the boat bears them farther and farther from all they know, they feel the water calling to them. As Lucy awaits Jess's return, strange rumors surrounding her sister's small town start to emerge. Numerous men have disappeared at sea. A tiny baby was found hidden in a cave, and sailors tell of hearing women's voices on the waves. Again, this was a very pleasant surprise. If you can see, I've got a lot of stuff tabbed in here, but then I stop tabbing towards the end. It's because I just really fell into the story. There's a little bit of mystery in here. There's some things that I saw coming, and I don't think that that's a bad thing. And there's a lot of magical realism, and I really enjoyed it. So because of this, I'll give Amelia Hart another chance at some point if she writes in the future. When she writes in the future. So, really good book. I got a great copy. It's really heavy. Good paper. Good binding. It's sewn together, not glued. So it could handle me being rough with it. And this is a Barnes & Noble exclusive edition because it's got the sprayed edges and everything. Do recommend. Especially if you like magical realism. When I went to put it on Goodreads, I noticed it had 3.83, I think. I gave it 4 stars. Look, I won't hesitate to DNF a book or give it a low rating if I don't like it, but I'm trying to work on looking for the things that I like instead of bitching about everything, like so many people seem to do. Okay, so that completes my weekend books. On the nonfiction side, I've made very little progress on The Women with Silver Wings by Catherine Sharp Landeck this week. I don't think I made any progress on it. Maybe, I don't know. Anywho, this is about the aviators who would become the Women Air Force service pilots, the WASPs, and I really do hope to get through this before the end of the month. For the in-person book club that I participate in, I'm going to tell you about a book I've not yet introduced. I am listening to The Radium Girls by Kate Moore. And when I say I'm listening to it, I mean that sometimes that I'm listening to it in my car, but sometimes I have to turn it off because it is fucking brutal. Here's what it's about. The Curie's newly discovered wonder drug shines bright in the otherwise dark years of the First World War, and hundreds of young girls toil amid the glowing dust of the radium dial factories until they begin to fall mysteriously ill. As the factories try to cover up the shocking secret, these determined shining girls suddenly find themselves embroiled in one of the biggest scandals of America's early 20th century. Now, I'm going to do some spoilers here, because this is history and I don't feel like you can spoil history. 2 comments. 1, this is evidence that big corporations or even medium corporations do not care about the worker. They only care about productivity. And I need to fact check this, but what I read on the internet on Friday is that this is why OSHA was created. And OSHA is not a bad thing. So again, this is a brutal book. It makes my mouth hurt when I listen to it, because when painting the dials, pretend this is a paintbrush. The women would lip point the paintbrushes that had been dipped in radium after they'd paint, lip point, dip, paint. So they were basically ingesting the radium. And it had horrific effects, and I can't talk anymore about it because now my mouth is starting to hurt just talking about it. So I do recommend this book. It is brutal. One of the members of the book club got a young reader's edition, and now I'm like, maybe I should have gotten that, as it is horrific, but it is an important story to read, to understand a little bit about U.S. history and OSHA. All right, so my next read is going to be, again, related to book club. Several weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, we had a book swap between members, and one of the books I picked up there was Joe Hill's Horns. I don't know why I didn't have a copy, because I do like Joe Hill, and I like to collect his works, but I started this today, and it should be my first of next week's weekend books. But I'll tell you what it's about right now. Once, Ig lived the life of the blessed. Born into privilege, the second son of a renowned musician, the younger brother of a rising late-night TV star, Ig had security and wealth and a place in his community. Ig had it all, and more. He had the love of Marion Williams, a love founded on shared daydreams, mutual daring, and unlikely midsummer magic. Then, beautiful, vivacious Marion was gone, raped and murdered, under inexplicable circumstances, and Ig the only suspect. He was never tried for the crime, but in the court of public opinion, he was, and always would be, guilty. Now, Ig is possessed of horns, and a terrible new power. He can hear people's deepest, darkest secrets to go with his terrible new look. He means to use it to find whoever killed Marion and destroyed his life. Being good and praying for the best got him nowhere. It's time for a little revenge. It's time the devil had his due. So, looking forward to it. It has been a minute since I read a horror book, and I had been thinking it was time, and this one was just staring me in the face, so I got it. Anywho, that is it for me and my weekend books. If you've read any of these, I'd love to hear from you down in the comments. If you have any recommendations on books I ought to read, I'd love to hear from you down in the comments. And if you've stuck with me this long, as always, thank you for sticking with me on my journey, and happy reading.